I would say this: we're all in this together. We're going to come up with solutions. We're going to find the answers to things. And so far, I cannot believe how civil it's been up here.
Donald Trump expressing some surprise, perhaps, at the civil tone of tonight's Republican presidential debate from the campus of the University of Miami in Miami, Florida. Let's continue a rather civil post-debate discussion here on Newsmax TV. And to do so, we welcome in from Utica, New York, via Skype. You see him center screen, pollster John Zogby. He is flanked screen right by my old House colleague, Pete Hoekstra, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, joining us from Newsmax, Washington, and from Newsmax, New York. You see him every weeknight at 7 p.m., the host of the eponymously named Steve Malzberg show. That's right, Steve Malzberg. John, since you're the new guy in the lineup, I'm interested in your overall take tonight on the debate, who you thought the big winner may have been and who may have come up short tonight.
I don't think anybody came up short. I think they all brought out their A game. This was the most dignified of the debates. I don't think anybody got hurt, and I don't think anybody emerged as a big winner. I think what Marco Rubio did, however, at the very least, is he rehabilitated his image. He was really in free fall, not simply in the race, but also in terms of his reputation. And I think he came a long way back towards restoring some dignity.
Steve Malzberg, what about that? Because I saw one poll later tonight that had Rubio climbing back into this thing about 8 points behind Donald Trump in Florida. Rubio, very nimble, very good on television. Do you believe he resuscitated his chances? In other words, will he make a race of the Florida primary next Tuesday?
I don't think he did anything very differently. I mean, he didn't mock Trump, he didn't attack Trump. Nobody attacked Trump. It was the most dignified of all the debates, but I don't think he's always been strong on policy issues. I think he was very strong on climate change. When they confronted him with what the mayor of Miami believed, that it was man-made, and he made a strong case for saying we could pass laws in Washington, it ain't going to change the climate in Miami one bit. He was very strong on schooling Donald Trump on the Israel situation, and that the Palestinians, you can't make peace with the Palestinians, you can't make a deal with the Palestinians. What, are you going to sit down with Hamas? I mean, he was strong on everything he talked about. He always has been. He got a little buffoonery thrown in the last time around, but I don't think he's resuscitated himself to the point where people are going to say, oh, now I could vote for him. He's the same Marco Rubio, really.
Well, film critics note the experience of Clara Bow, who was known in the 1920s as the It Girl. And there is something about having it in politics, and whatever charisma and telegenicity Marco Rubio has, well, it's being put to the test. For example, take a look at a picture that appeared on social media. I believe columnist Byron York tweeted this out. In Hialeah, a Rubio event in a football stadium, the stands were empty. They were able to fit all of those who showed up into one end zone. Now, things can change. There can be some late deciders. Pete Hoekstra, I know that there are millions of dollars being spent against Donald Trump. Your take on Rubio and a possible resuscitation before Tuesday?
Well, in Michigan, we saw a surge for John Kasich at the end, and he probably moved about 8 or 9 points after the debate in Detroit. But, you know, what you've got in Florida is you've got a lot of people that have already voted. I think all the candidates did relatively well tonight. The big winner tonight was the Republican Party, because actually they had 4 people on stage that kind of looked presidential. And I don't think that there was enough of a breakout tonight in the debate that really would enable anybody to catch Trump. To catch Trump in Florida. I think the real question here is, the other state that's so important on Tuesday is Ohio. Did Governor Kasich, and I think he did he do enough to make sure that he wins his own state? And I think I'm thinking and I'm hoping that he solidified his position in his home state.
And as you point out, supporting our old House colleague John Kasich, as you do,
yes.
Pete Hoekstra. Obviously, you are hoping for that. Well, let's turn to the pollster on the panel. John Zogby, who has seen the vicissitudes of public opinion and how things can change. Pete made the point that early voting, at least based on what we're seeing on exit polls or post-early votes, seems to be solidly in the control of Donald Trump. But your take on how races can change and just the overall tone, whether it's Florida or Ohio or perhaps even my native state of North Carolina that has over 70 delegates up for grabs.
Well, let me clarify something first. When I say Rubio resuscitated and rehabilitated himself tonight, I'm talking about his reputation and his legacy and his future, not necessarily winning Florida. I think that's an uphill climb. There are no polls showing him. There's one poll, actually, by Suffolk University. I'm not sure about its reliability, showing him in a strong second place. I think he may tighten up the race a bit, but he's down by substantial double digits. But I do think that he'll come in a good, strong second place. That's not enough. But in terms of Ohio, you've got John Kasich now leading in 2 polls, 5-6 points. I think he was certainly talking to Ohioans tonight, staying focused on his message and reminding them of his popularity and why he is popular and seen as a good governor. And I think he certainly helped himself in his home state and possibly Illinois as well.
Steve Malzberg, the civility on the stage took away Governor Kasich's real asset from the last debate when he called himself the only adult on the stage, and that seemed to redound to his benefit. But tonight, was there enough Kasich there to help him not only in Ohio to capture his home state, where he has an 80% approval rating as governor, but to make a dent elsewhere for him in this race?
Well, I think when you talk about broad appeal, aside from the fact that he's certainly the most liberal in the race, and he's said, hey, the Supreme Court decided on, he didn't say this tonight, Supreme Court decided on gay marriage, so we have to accept it. And he's made other statements similar on social issues. But I think that, you know, he's touted his accomplishments, and they are huge. I mean, he's done great things. He did it in Congress, on the Budget Committee, as he's alluded to, and in Ohio. But to the angry, unemployed or underemployed or worried about their job person out there who supports Trump, who's looking for an alternative, who's tired of being screwed by Washington and the establishment, he's a guy who's been in the establishment his whole political career. So I don't think that it's enough to appeal beyond possibly his own home state of Ohio. And as John knows better than I, maybe Illinois.
All right, let's take a quick look at the delegate count just to refresh everybody's memory. It is worth noting that Donald Trump has a lead of 99 delegates, almost 100 delegates over Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio at 151, and John Kasich at 54. But Pete Hoekstra, you and others backing Kasich, hopes he can at least get the 60-plus delegates up for grabs in Ohio, a winner-take-all state. Respond to Steve's characterization of Mr. Kasich as the most liberal in this race. We only have about a minute left here.
Well, what you have is you've got 4 very, very conservative candidates on there, although we don't know all that much about exactly how Donald Trump would govern. We know how Rubio and Cruz have voted in the Senate. They're conservative. We know how John has governed. He's conservative. So, you know, he may be the most liberal on the on that stage, but there's one word you can't use to describe John Kasich, and that's being liberal. This guy is a conservative. He just signed the bill in Ohio defunding Planned Parenthood.
Fiscally, he's a conservative, no doubt about it. On social issues, gay marriage and others, he's on the liberal side.
30 seconds left. Let me get the final question of the pollster, John Zogby. What is the most important type of conservatism to Republicans, social or fiscal? 20 seconds, John.
In the primaries, it's been social conservatism.
And that plays to the base. We'll see what happens. John Zogby, tonight from Utica, New York. Pete Hoekstra from Newsmax, Washington. You both have our thanks for an invigorating and insightful evaluation. There is more to come, but we also want to remind you that we're very interested in your choice of who won tonight's debate. Tell us by going to newsmaxpolls.com. Back with more after this.